Seelbach, are you ready to unseal your box? Seelbach, are you ready to unseal your box? Seelbach, are you ready to unseal your box?
Welcome everyone, I'm Blake from Seelbach, and we are back for another Seelbach Sunday review video. Brian, how's it going?
It is going great, just getting over the feeling of love, yesterday, Valentine's Day, I spent it with Jordan from Rolling Fork.
Yeah. As anyone in the whiskey world would, or rum world would want to do, just who did I spend it with? A bearded guy in a flannel shirt that talks a lot about rum, brandy, and bourbon. Who else wouldn't want to? I'm a little jealous of that, but what I'm really jealous about is the fact that last Valentine's Day, you took me to a Valentine's Day pop-up bar in Atlanta.
Sure did.
And no invite this year, no second visit to the bar. Man, my heart is crushed.
Blake tried to get me out to the honky tonk last week, and I shut him down then too. It's feeling the tension going into this recording, but I think we'll make it through.
For those anyone watching who's in Atlanta or Georgia area, shoot us a few comments in the comment section of your favorite bars, because we were there last year. We were barrel picking, and it's right around the same time. And Brian's like, "Yeah, there's a bar right here," and we walk in and didn't know that they're doing a Valentine's Day takeover. And I'm like, "Nope, I'm leaving." He's like, "Oh, we're 100% going in. This is the best bar we can find, and we are doing the Valentine's Day pop-up." So if you have suggestions for the Atlanta area, please let us know in the comment section.
And also, if you have suggestions for jumping down below, smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel, you can also suggest that also.
Absolutely. Well, let's jump into the week. It's a big week. 4 releases, some really cool bottles, but we'll get into those. The first one we have up is a brand new Grape Brandy from Copper and King. Yes, it is another Hazmat, and it's not just a single varietal brandy. What's really cool about this one, and so it's a blend of 4 different grapes, which it's really cool. So this is a 10-year-old brandy. It's obviously a blend of the 4 varietals. It's Hazmat, hits all those really fun, cool attributes, and just delicious brandy. But we also have some other bottles, which are just the single varietals of those same grapes. So it's a single varietal barrel of Chenin Blanc, single varietal single barrel of Colombard. Say that 5 times fast. So it's a really cool setup we have going with Copper and King. We're really excited about what they're doing and what they're producing. So if you're looking to get into brandy, and American brandy especially, this is your opportunity.
Yeah, I think that folks will notice this year that I don't want to say we're putting a bigger emphasis, although I think we are, because we've been, again, with my mention with Jordan, talking through tasting some rums as well as like Armagnac, Cognac type offerings that they bring to the table. We've been talking with Dan from Ode about some offerings too. We had one of those semi recently that sold through. And then folks may remember we just had the apple brandy, closing out the year from Copper and Kings. And these American brandies are just really enjoyable. For me, it's nice because it's here from the hometown, but specifically these grapes are really, really unique. These 3, trying through them, if you're interested in brandies, I think they're at a really, nice price point as well. The Hazmat is really, really cool for that big brandy power, like the apple release that we had. But the 3 individual on their own, I mean, it's really cool to notice the differences. If you've ever wondered in like a whiskey to be able to taste the components that go into a blend, I mean, this really will showcase 3 completely different characteristics between those 3. So this is gonna be a really, really fun release. That Chenin Blanc, I'm like, is fantastic. And then the Muscat, it's like, oh, super wild flavor profile. These are really fun.
Yeah, and we still love bourbon, don't get us wrong, but there's just so many cool things out there between rums, brandies, all these different spirits. And I think obviously, like, to go get craft gin or something else, it's a little more of a stretch for whiskey drinkers. But a lot of these rums and brandies, they fit into that same profile of what people love in the bourbon world. it's just more about exploration for a lot of people. So we're trying to be selective in what we bring in and make sure it really appeals to the bourbon drinker while we roll out some of the fun things. But no, I'm excited for that one. That should be really cool. I haven't tried the Hazmat, but 149 proof, 10-year Grape Brandy with 4 different varietals. Like, what's not to love about that? So
Absolutely.
we'll kick the week off with that. Next up, we have from Chattanooga Whiskey. We're back with one of their experimental batches. This is experimental batch 47. It is a single pot still whiskey. Obviously, the guys at Chattanooga are all into experimentation, exploration, whatever you want to call it, with a lot of their releases. And this one, think more Irish whiskey style. So it's a blend of mash bills of floor malted barley, Calypso unmalted barley, pale malted barley, Hollis malted oats. So it really is more in that, not Scotch, but more Irish single pot still whiskey. It's over 4 years old. It is, let's see, it's 95 proof, and they did it on their 100-gallon pot still, which they have at their tasting room in downtown Chattanooga. It's hard to say they don't, like, nobody ever misses, but with the experimental line with Chattanooga, it's like they don't mess with these. Like, it's good. It's going to be really cool and interesting. And I know you were tasting through it. What should people expect from this one?
Yeah, this one was very interesting. And I was tasting with some guys too, and when describing, be like, oh, this is like their take on an Irish whiskey, like, oh, this makes so much sense. Like, this is
Mhm.
a better buy than a lot of other things out there. I'm not super diverse on or super versed, excuse me, on Irish whiskeys really to know. But it's what I appreciate about the experimental series is that just under their own one umbrella, right? They can do so many different styles. So I think that fans of Chattanooga will really appreciate this, and specifically, as I'm told by the other people I drank with, and not because I know that, fans of Irish whiskey will think this one's a lot of fun too. So that's what I do know.
Yeah, and typically Irish whiskey leans into that pot still style. It's a little bit lighter, a little bit cleaner. I want to do a comparison with this with the Kings County pot still Irish whiskey that they did. That got them into a little bit of a battle with, I believe, Irish whiskey. They didn't like the fact that they used that word on there. Maybe that's why Chattanooga is just calling this a pot still whiskey.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it'll be really exciting, especially if Chattanooga fans, especially those who like Irish whiskey. Definitely a good option there. And so after that, we move on to a brand new product, one we haven't had on Seelbach before, which is Unreined. Unreined is a brand based in Texas. They've sourced bourbon from, let's see, Kentucky and Texas. So we have their Foolproof version as well as their 4 grain. So it's a really cool blend. I've gotten to know these guys, and they have a incredible team. People from Buffalo Trace, people from Bardstown, people from kind of all over that they've joined together to start this brand called Unreined. And it's a pretty big component list for this blend, but I'll run through it quickly. But essentially, it's 6-year Kentucky, 7-year Texas, 6-year Kentucky, 6-year Kentucky, and that is on the Foolproof. Now, I know I repeated myself there a couple times, so you've got some where the bourbon is 78% corn, 10% rye, 12% malted barley. The Texas is a wheated bourbon. Then they have some Kentucky wheated bourbon, as well as some Kentucky bourbon, which is 90% corn, 10% malted barley. So we're talking about building blends, something that's complex and really flavorful. You get that going on with all those 4 components. So it's a really exciting one to see come to life and have on the site. So the Foolproof's 118 proof, and just another great example of like bourbon that's available, well aged, and well priced. I think we're seeing more of that mix as we go, but
Mm.
to be 6 and 7 years old and it's under $70, it's a pretty good deal. As well as the 4 grain version, which is just very similar components, but proof down to 95 proof, and obviously 6 and 7 years old, and it's under $50. So, you know, we've talked about it a little bit on this show, but Reining it, yeah, no pun intended, but reining in the prices of the bourbon craze over the last 5 years is probably the best thing we can see as a consumer, as a retailer. Just be able to get really good bourbon to people. It's unique, has a cool story, tastes good, and doesn't break the bank. So I'm excited to see that one on Seelbach on Thursday.
Absolutely.
Did you crack into this bottle yet? Or
No,
I know
this
it's
is
a
one of those
shot.
ones where, a little insider scoop for folks on the channel. So, we get stuff all the time, and kind of a constant communication back and forth and behind the scenes with me and Blake too is I usually ask, what's the intent for this product if I get sample things to come in, and then I always feel like I should shoot things first before moving into
Mhm.
any tasting because we'll probably use those assets on the site should we bring them in, but sometimes it isn't a shoe in that something's bringing in, it's for approval. And so I always try and go through these steps of what to do with things. And this is one of the ones that a while back, I had gotten samples, I think 2 different times. The 4 grain came in at one point in time. I think the Foolproof at a later time. And they were set in my like shoot and then my 2 visit pile. And sometimes just the tasks of the in and out, overtake things. And then
I
what
mean,
is
there's
in the
only
to do
what, a
pile
few
becomes
hundred
the
bottles.
to release pile. And so yeah.
Yeah, no, sure we'll get notes on it before we release that on Thursday, but
Yeah.
should be a fun one. Which brings us to our final release of the week, which is always a fan favorite. Anything cool, new, rare, limited, whatever you want to call it, allocated from 13th Colony always makes a splash. And so now we have the 13th Colony 113 proof rye whiskey finished with maplewood spirals. So, as those who saw on Seelbach's last week, we did the Seelbach's double stack, which was maple finished. That was actually a bourbon barrel that had maple syrup in it dumped out. These are actually maple wood spirals. So people see that maple and they automatically think, oh man, it's going to be so sweet. It's like, no, this is just additional oaking or wood finishing of the rye whiskey. So it's 5 to 6 year rye whiskey blended together with those maple spirals. And I mean, they're always really tasty. I really loved the 113 bourbon that they did. So I'm excited for this one. It's 95.5 mash bill. Notes of baked raisins, vanilla, sugar, toasted pecans, honey, cooked plums, toasted rye bread, graham cracker, all the notes that just make you go, I bet that tastes delicious. So that will be on Friday, and definitely one, if any historical 13th Colony release has told us, will not last all that long. So I'm excited to get that in.
Yeah, so answer the question because I imagine people are probably curious. When 13th Colony first released the maple bourbon, it was in limited quantity. And then we
Mhm.
had announced, maybe a month or so back or whatever, we had a larger because, the goal for them for that product was to be a more of a mainstay. What is this release of rye going to be? Is it the same cadence? It's going to start limited at first?
Correct. Yep. So this will be a limited release once a year. Not always available. We have a decent stock of it, I would say, but yeah, it won't be like the bourbon, which will be more of a flagship product, always
Okay.
available. So this one will be limited. But yeah, should be a fun one. And if you order from Sealbox, let us know if you start seeing some special things pop up in your packages from us, because we're starting a new program where we got some 50 ml bottles of the 13th Colony maple finish or maple stave bourbon, and we're starting to just slowly toss those out there into packages and orders as they come in to let people get a sample of it and try it. So be on the lookout for those as well. That little Easter egg we're throwing out currently. But yeah, it's you know with 13th Colony, they did skip the double oak this year, but they still have a really cool lineup of LTOs and allocated products for 2026, and this will be the first one that kicks that off.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited to see this one. And for folks too who tune in, if anyone is in like the media, this kind of is a little bit of a piggyback with that. But one of the things that we're trying to do is have little things like this we're able to throw into orders because again, we understand that helping people, like we want to help people find whiskeys they're going to enjoy. When you release so much, sometimes it's hard to know what certain things are. That's why we started this show, so that we could talk a little bit more in depth than maybe what we're able to in an email sometimes. Hopefully people know they can reach out to us if they have specific questions too, whether it's online, whether it's in email. But then I also am kind of starting more of a media outlet, news outlet type of newsletter as well, that helps from our perspective just kind of watch some things that are happening in the whiskey space, or some products that we see that we don't think are getting shown as much. I try and do a good job of highlighting those, be it on the website or in some content pieces that we share. But if you have a channel or a podcast, something like that, and you're watching this and you want to be networked into this, I'm going to only send it like once a month. It's pretty low. It's really no commitment. It's just hopefully a way that from our perspective, we can give some insights to people that we know are in the media space, to shine light on more of the brands that we see regularly that maybe we don't see people talking about as much. Because again, if we're doing our job right, we're going to continue to highlight great spirits that we're finding all across. So if you see that, reach out to me, be it email brian@seelbach.com, or find me on socials. My handle is, oh shoot, I got it backwards again. It's this, I don't know how to
I was like, man, Brian reads right to left. Never realized that. That's
it's just
he's
right
left-handed, but
boom. You never know when these things are mirrored or when they're not mirrored. So
there it is.
shoot me a line on Instagram or something like that, or find me on YouTube, and connect, and I can get you on that list as well if you're interested in some of those.
It's a very great way of saying, like, do you like talking about bourbon or other spirits? Do you like free bourbon or other spirit samples? Yeah, reach out to Brian. Not to try to flood your inbox, but that is a general idea. It's like, we know a lot of people who do whiskey or other spirits media. They can't buy everything. They don't keep track of every release that happens. So we're trying to, like you said, it's just the rising of the tides, getting stuff that we really like to people who have a platform, have influence, and hopefully that reaches a different audience or just solidifies whatever those reviews may be with other customers. So, just trying to, everyone should be buying new cool craft bottles every few weeks in 2026. That's
right.
The hope. But no, that's a big week. Lot to get through, and so it should be an exciting one. So Brian, as always, thanks for joining me on this episode 25. I think I got that
Absolutely.
right. I'm pretty sure it's 25. Yeah.
I think you might be right this time. Yeah. And I hope that, since this is coming out on Sunday, so I hope yesterday, I'll text your wife. I hope that she has taken you out to a nice Jacksonville Valentine's themed bar that you'll be able
I gotta
to tell me
Google that
about
one.
next
If
week.
there's any Jacksonville Valentine's Day pop-ups. We're doing the really romantic thing of kid sports all Saturday long for Valentine's Day. So yeah, just one of everyone's favorites. But cool. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. We will see you next week, and let us know what you're most excited about coming out on Seelbach this week.
Cheers, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Have a good one. Bye.